This is the final video in our instructional series for Global CFO, and in this section we are looking at the evaluating section. Notice that I've chosen key ratios. Most financial software will use 4 or 5 key ratios to give you its general sense of the efficiency of the company financially. We have over 22 ratios here. These liquidity and solvency ratios are very common, but we take this down to profitability ratios, efficiency ratios. You noticed up here leverage ratios. All of these things give us a sense of how our money is performing and how the company is performing financially. So if you notice here, days payable outstanding. In 2009, we were at 104 days, and that has continued to improve. If we do nothing else but continue what we are doing, we drop that to 69. Inventory turns, 21, then we go to 10, and those numbers continue to change. So are we turning it over more rapidly, or have we increased inventory and we're turning it over more slowly? That could be a problem for us. Average days in inventory, that much is improving, so that's good. So based on all of the information that we have key ratios then that show us how effective we are using our money. If we're using our money effectively, then it puts us in a position then to have strength as we expand or look for greater market penetration, for example. Or in a nonprofit, if we're using more money effectively, then that money goes farther and can be used for greater purposes. In the ratios defined page, we have all of those same ratios again, but we have determined, first of all, what the trend should be for each ratio, and then an indicator that shows whether or not we are matching that. So for our current ratio should be up, and ours is rising, so that's a good thing. We are doing what we should be doing. All of these ratios, current liabilities to net worth, should be trending down, and ours is falling, so it's doing a good job. Interest coverage, that one's steady, but it should be trending up. Gross profit margin should be trending up, but it's actually falling. And so those are warning signs, and notice that it's shown here in red to give us a very good visual clue that we have some things that we need to work on. So what if we don't really understand these ratios? Maybe I'm a business owner and I want to know more about it, but I don't exactly know how that works. Then you can click on the Learn More tab, and that takes us to Investopedia, which gives us a definition of that ratio and an explanation of how it's used and why it's important. So that becomes a very important learning tool as well. On the next tab, we have industry comparison. This is something that many organizations will use and many will not. If you have an understanding of these ratios in your industry, for example, your trade magazines may publish what these ratios are for your industry. You can then add those things here and add the maximum and the average, and this will then compare your industry to where you are. And that gives us an understanding of how we are performing based on our peers in the marketplace or our competitors, for example. The next one is Z-score. This was developed in the 1960s as a means of determining the likelihood of bankruptcy. And notice it tells us the interpretation. So a Z-score of 2.9 or greater is the safe zone, and then we move down to anything less than 1.23. That's the distress zone, meaning that we're at risk of bankruptcy if we don't change. So notice that we're at 2.13, 08, 2.22, 2.23. All of these are below 2.9. Most of our scores fall in the mid-range. So it says on alert. That means that we should be exercising caution as we make financial decisions so that we can try to bump up these ratios in a way that will make us solid, keep us healthy financially, and put us in a position of good cash strength. And then finally, the business valuation. I covered this a little bit in a previous video, but I want to stress that this is merely a means of comparison. We have calculated the 3 most common methods of determining the value of a business. It does not take into account goodwill or some of the other soft factors that are important in the value of a business. And so we have to make this disclaimer that this is not something you should base the sale of your company on. However, it is a rough value established of where you are today and shows you as a baseline year to year what your company looks like. So in 2013, it was worth almost $12 million. It's projected that by 2018, it'll be worth $24 million. That's a pretty good growth and good valuation increase. And so it will show us generally whether or not we are growing and becoming healthier as time goes on. So why is this important? Well, it's another mechanism for us to be able to predict the future of our company or our organization, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit. Using our money more effectively gives us options. And being able to predict line by line and year by year what changes will occur if we make certain decisions gives us then a very powerful means of determining where our decisions ought to take place, how those decisions ought to be made in a way that it impacts the company, and provides us a mechanism for good management strategy going forward so that we can strengthen our organization.